and also over on my YouTube channel. My name is Brandy, and I'm the owner and artist behind Brush by Brandy. And I paint here live with you guys every Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm on the West Coast in California. My husband Sean is here behind the camera to help answer any questions. So you guys come on and say hi to Sean. Oh my gosh, it's been a busy day, and we are only a few days off of Christmas. So I don't know. Hopefully this is a nice break for everyone to just like let it go, stop thinking about gift buying for a few minutes, and we're just going to do some painting tonight. We are actually going to be starting a new project. So I usually will take a project from start to finish, and I'll show you the process along the way. And then when we get to the very end, I make an edited tutorial, and I'll put that on my YouTube channel, and you can watch the fast version or you can watch the more detailed live version. So I do try to do those videos because everybody likes a different format. And so I have live videos for people who prefer the more in-depth content. And then also that edited version comes if you just want to see like, how did we get here? So this is the piece that I've chosen that we're going to start working on. And this one has some care issues that it needs. I think I got this one for, I think I paid $15 for it.
What?
Yeah, but I love the shape of it. It's a really pretty piece. It's actually a secretary desk.
Who do I call for a refund? So
this flips forward. I'm not going to flip it forward because the first thing I know about this already is that actually, can I flip this forward? Oh, what will happen? Okay.
That will?
Yeah, let me show you guys. The first thing I know about this already is I need to order these side hinges right here. These are broken. So I need to order 2 of these, and then it also needs a new piano hinge to hold this desk portion on. So I'm going to start the prep on it, and while I do that, I'm going to go ahead and order these, and they'll come to me in the mail, and then I can move on this piece. So that's some of the things that I noticed right off the bat, but I didn't want to do that because I want you guys to see what I'm starting with. So right off the bat, I know that I need to replace those hinges. Always when you're doing pieces that need repairs like this with hardware is an expensive fix. So especially like if you get a 72-inch dresser and all of the drawer glides need to be replaced, that is an expensive fix. If all of the hardware, the handles all need to be replaced, that's an expensive fix. Hardware is usually a pricey thing. So account for that in the price that you pay for the piece. Don't pay full price on a piece that's going to need quite a bit of either repairs with your time or repairs with that you have to make purchases for. So we're going to go ahead and start the prep on this piece. And the first thing I want to do is I'm going to take the hardware off. So this hardware, it looks like it would just screw on and off.
Sorry, Barb says, you know you're going to be in trouble painting this piece.
Oh, well, see, I think it's kind of cool to see the pathway on all different types of pieces. So this one's not super old. I would estimate this is probably from the 1990s.
I'm sure with all that inlay.
Yeah, someone's going to yell at me and tell me that this is a rare inlay that I'm painting over. I promise you it's not. All these details are resin. It's going to be very rare if you're assessing the age of a piece. When you see carvings like this, it's going to be very rare that this is all done in real wood, in solid wood. So this is not real wood. It's a fairly modern piece. The newer your piece is, the less of it is going to be wood. So newer pieces also have thinner veneers. Veneer is still wood. It's just a higher grade of wood over a lower quality of wood. It can be a veneer over real wood, or it can be a veneer over MDF, which is fiberboard. That's actually what this one is. It's got some fiberboard under here, and just some of this is thin veneers over the top. Okay, so I just took the screws out of this, but I wanted to show you taking this hardware off because this is not just unscrew and pull the handle off. These actually have little pin nails in them. So when I encounter hardware that has pin nails in it, I'm going to get a straight edge, and I just use a firm blade, a scraper blade, and I'm going to get in here behind this hardware, and I'm going to start wedging it, and it's going to start loosening those screws. I do it this way because I don't want to do damage to the drawer front, so I'm pushing those little pin nails outward. I'm going back and forth between the two sides of it until that wants to pop off. So I've got one off. It's got a little bit, it looks like the hardware had stuck into the original finish. So it's got a little bit of marking there, and I'm
How
going to
does that
have to
happen
sand
with
that
such
out.
with a nice inlay like that? I can't figure out how
I
that
know,
happens.
I know. It's very rare with pieces this old, this exotic. So rare antique. So you guys, the reason I'm joking about this is because I did a piece last week, and it's totally a modern reproduction. It's literally made in the 1990s. But the way people freaked out on me, you would think it was made in the 1890s. And so I had to make a second video to be like, whoa, 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 slow your roll, guys. It's okay. I didn't, it has like a painted on design like this, and everyone thought it was like a real inlay, like a wood inlay. I'm like, nope, that is fake as can be, all painted. Same thing with this one. This is not an inlay. It is all painted on. So I'm going to get the second piece of hardware off. I'm just kind of prying those little pin nails out, trying to not damage my drawer front at the same time.
Does that mean you're giving it a wedgie?
I'm giving it an unwedgie.
Oh.
I'm unwedging it. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to turn this one to the side, and I'm going to show you some of my next steps on preparing this one to get paint. So when I'm evaluating this, there's no reason modern pieces of furniture can't be repainted. They're actually really fun to do. But you get these really dramatic, over-exaggerated shapes like this one has. It's a pretty piece of furniture. Okay, so I've got damage on this one. Number one, I've got a lot of spots where the existing finish is chipping and peeling. I've got, it's particularly down here along the legs. It does have like these fake wormholes in it. This was the style in the 90s to put like fake, I don't know why it looked good to like put fake infestation on your furniture.
I wondered that.
Yeah, like was that a attractive thing to have infestation problems? Anyway, if you have older pieces of furniture and you're seeing wormholes like this, you need to treat it for infestation. In this case, these are just decorative. I know that there's no worms living in these holes. So I leave these. You can fill them with a wood filler if you wanted to, but I usually leave them. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I think they can be kind of cute. And I'm going to be doing kind of a textured old world finish on this. I feel like it suits the style of this piece. All right, so what would I do on this piece to prepare it? So I'm going to evaluate the surface number one. Okay, I know this is not solid wood all the way through. I can see here where the finish is kind of worn away. I've definitely got some MDF under there. So if I was like, I'm going to strip this back to raw wood and do a raw wood finish, it's not going to work for that. So that's something I take into consideration when I'm deciding my finishes. Even the top is not going to be a candidate for a wood stained top. It's not real wood all the way through. When you've got really exotic carvings like this, they're usually not all the wood all the way through. You can also look at your profile here. If it's a really detailed profile, usually that's going to be in a different type of wood, or it's not going to be real wood at all. So if it's got a bunch of, a lot of relief to it, the chances of this being real wood are slim to none. I already know this one is not. I can see some of the MDF. This had some scratches in it that I sanded.
That's probably where I dropped it.
Yeah. I actually picked this one up with my son. Sorry, no, that did not happen.
I really like how the front two drawers are aligned. They look really good.
Yeah, we'll get to those in a minute. So this is the time when I'm evaluating the piece. I open all the drawers, pull all the drawers out. What do I need to fix? What needs to be replaced? Right off the bat, I know on this one, I need to replace those hinges on the front. So we're going to go ahead and focus on the side tonight, and I'm going to give this a good cleaning. So what I'm using this is Greenie's cleaner. I like this stuff. It cuts through just about anything. I like to use effective cleaners. Another option would be TSP from the hardware store, which is trisodium phosphate. You mix it with water. That's a really aggressive cleaner. I recommend wearing gloves whenever you're working with cleaners. And I'm going to go ahead and go through this and clean this piece. And what I'm trying to do is get all the finger oils, the grease, polishes, anything like that. So can I show you guys what was on my Amazon shopping list for Black Friday? Was this cleaning kit. So I went ahead and just finally ordered one of these. This is a brush kit, and it has all these different brushes. I guess, is this a toilet brush? Like, am I going to clean my toilet with this?
You should, but I'm a little concerned that it's a drill attachment.
Yeah, it's a drill attachment that
you're really getting in there.
Clean your toilet with. I'm gonna pass on using this on my toilet.
No, it's okay.
But it's got all these different brushes that are different levels of coarseness. So these are a little more coarse. This one is probably the most. Oh no, that one's a little more. But I'm going to use just this pretty, it's still got some firmness to it, but it's a pretty soft
Justice
brush.
said you got that on Black Friday too.
I did. This was on my shopping list. I almost showed you guys, but then I was like, there was an overwhelming amount of stuff for Black Friday. I'm not going to show you guys what I got. I did get good Black Friday stuff. I also got like a travel Sonicare toothbrush. That's my other new favorite thing.
Oh, Cindy, it's not this time. It's been used in the past. She said, at least it's not my toothbrush.
Oh yeah, no. Well, I don't know. I mean, unless you want this as your toothbrush, I'm not going to clean my toilet with this.
No, for
I don't
cleaning
know.
the toilets, I'm sure.
This one I might not use so much. It's got sponges, and these have like a. Let me find the part for this. Oh, they have this thing. So it's a big Velcro pad, and it comes with all these different types of sponges that I can stick on there. Okay, this is like a buffing pad. If I wanted to wax something, I could buff my wax with that.
And whose car is that?
Has kind of abrasive pads if I wanted to use those for cleaning. Maybe on pieces that I need to do really aggressive cleaning. I don't feel like this has crusties on it or anything. I'm really just going to let it cut through that the oils and polishes is all I'm trying to do on this one.
That's perfect size for pieces. I just hope nobody got it for
Yeah,
the car.
I like this. I'm pretty excited about it. So anyway, this was my my Black Friday item for myself. And I'm going to go ahead and use this brush. And I'm going to use it because I can get into some of these details with it.
Well, how did you touch it? That's
Oh,
amazing.
yeah, sorry. Let me show you guys. Okay, so on my drill, this is a DeWalt drill, but Sean just painted mine pink. I don't know. He wanted to deface it. Okay, so I can, it just has a sleeve on here, and I can slide the socket like that. And then my brushes have a head on them.
Perfect.
Okay, and I can just slip this in here. I got to pull the socket. And then I can just slip this in
I
here.
think you just put it right in.
Didn't want to go. Okay. And then.
Oh, sweetness.
That doesn't sound good. Why does my drill sound like that? All right. Well,
Because, let me see this real quick. Sorry. It doesn't fit correctly in there.
all right.
me
It's
try
a
this
little loose. Oh, yeah. I see it now. All right. I'm going to try this drill. Same thing. I think it's just the metal racking against the drill inside. It's just a little loose of a fit.
Just a little play. As long as you keep it going, you're fine.
So it sounds bad, but I would use this to clean parts like this detail.
Now you don't even have to paint it. That's perfect.
I can also use it to get into the crevices of the molding.
Now I have no job. You're doing it for me.
Well, this is pretty fun. And then I would just take this off and I would rinse my the head of that off.
Do you have a link to this thing?
I'll put it in my Amazon shop. So what is it? All of my links are always pinned to the top of my Facebook page, but I will go ahead and add them in. So if you ask me for it, I will go ahead and shoot it to you after we get off the live. And then I always rinse my cleaning residue off just with some water. Cleaning residue can keep your paint from sticking also, so I also rinse off any of my cleaning residue. It's a super easy step. Use a separate rag than the one that you washed your piece with. And then the other thing is I don't want to introduce too much moisture to areas where I have exposed MDF because it can cause it to swell. So if you have exposed MDF, you can spray a coat of shellac over it to keep that from swelling. I'm not particularly worried about these. They're pretty small. When I'm cleaning my piece, I'm also evaluating what do I need to do before I start adding paint. So I know spots like this right here. Like this one right here, I need to sand this. It's not smooth. It's got a rough texture to it. And I'm also it's chipped on this back corner right here. So I'm going to sand that also.
Hey, Fireball June.
Hey,
Sorry I
Fireball
stepped
June.
away, so I missed the comment.
Okay, so you can do this by hand, by all means. I have my Surf Prep sander in my workspace. It is always hooked up. So, whoops, sorry. I also have the Surf Prep vacuum, which is what you just heard. And so what happens is the Surf Prep vacuum has an automatic setting on it, which is my favorite thing about the vacuum by far, that anytime I depress this, it will also turn my vacuum on automatically. So I don't have to turn the vacuum on, come back, sand, go back, turn my vacuum off every time. It's every time I turn my sander on, that vacuum comes on with it. So listen to my vacuum. And then it has about a 30-second delay after I let go of the sander. My vacuum will turn off also. It does make kind of a puffing sound, and that is the HEPA filter on the vacuum cleaning itself while I'm vacuuming. Okay, so let me show you what I've got on here. All right, so the Surf Prep sander, mine's well loved, you can tell. I try to clean it, I don't know, once a year I'll go through and just kind of clean the machine, blow out the air holes on the sides, anything like that. It does have these guys here, these little vent holes. If you're not using a vacuum with it, you would leave the vent holes open. If you are using the vacuum, you'll close off your vent holes. So mine are always closed because mine's always hooked to a vacuum. That's like the #1 perk of the Surf Prep is its dust removal is like second to none. I had DeWalt sanders before this. Of course, I partially took this out and it doesn't want to fit.
Well, the funny thing is it was multiple. It was plural. You went through
Yeah.
a couple of different DeWalts.
I've still got them because when the kids come out here and ask me for a sander, I'm like, oh, here's this DeWalt sander. I mean, DeWalt's, they're pretty nice sanders. They're not cheap. But this by far has, I mean, even when you hook the DeWalt's up to a vacuum, this by far has better dust removal than the DeWalt's ever did. And it keeps my workspace clean. I can't even tell you how much of a problem dust used to be, and it's not anymore. So it has this backup pad. This is replaceable. I'm probably getting close to where I need to have a replacement. You can just unscrew this red pad and it will come right off. And then you should always use a pad saver. Okay, and that's this little Velcro guy. And that's just to give more life to your backup pad, which is this red pad that's on my sander. So I always use a pad saver. Helps if I put it on the right way. Okay, and that just is going to give more life to it so that I'm not always writing right onto the pad. These come with your papers when you order them, so, and they're really easy to replace. And then when I'm sanding curves like this, I use a foam abrasive. So what this one is it's an interface pad. This means I can take this pad right here, if I didn't have a bunch of stuff stuck in the Velcro, it's just a squishy pad, and I can put any grit of abrasive onto the front of it when I'm sanding. So I'm going to put this on to give me some squish. You can see right there, it's got some pads. So now it's going to want to conform to those curves, and I can sand a curved surface like this. And then I'm going to choose a 120 grit paper. Okay, so I'll put this on here, and then I'm going to go ahead and smooth out this to where it's not rough to the touch anymore. I'll let my vacuum turn off. Okay, and so I've got that smooth. I also sand away this area that was chipping, and then I had another little spot right here, so I just went ahead and got that. The other thing I'm doing when I'm looking at this piece is I'm evaluating, what do I need to do to prepare this? How is the paint going to take to the surface? It's a fairly glossy surface. I definitely want to go ahead and scuff sand this to add a little bit of tooth to the finish. Still got a little bit of water on there. Stuck my hand in it. So I'm going to scuff sand it, but I'm also going to add primer. And I would say the scuff sanding is a step that you can skip. It's probably optional on this piece, but I always usually do both. I think usually when I prime for grip, I also will just go ahead and just do a quick scuff sanding underneath. That's just to take the shine off the finish, give it a little bit of bite, and then I'm also going to put a primer on We'll talk about primer in just a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and scuff this surface up. Okay, that's why I usually will just do the scuff sanding, because what did that side take me? 30 seconds. So if I do 30 seconds, say a minute on the front and 30 seconds on the side, in 2 minutes, I can just go ahead and give this a scuff sanding.
Oh, I was going to say, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. Tanya said, hey, and I realized the time there, and I was going to say, where's the rest of the Australian peeps? And here's Deb.
Yeah. What is it? You guys are all the 3 a.m. crowd? What time is it there, you guys?
No, it's only noon there.
Oh, is it?
We're 8 hours ahead.
Well, then I should have way more Australian viewers.
I agree.
Yeah, what took you guys so long? All right, and then I created a little bit of dust, so I'm just going to rinse my dust off. I spray it with a little bit of water, and I'm going to take that dust back off.
Bam.
So scuff sanding is a super easy step. If I ever question the surface that I'm painting on, I will just go ahead and take the time to do that scuff sanding.
Sherry's got a really important question for you.
Who does?
Sherry, what was your kitchen like after the boys' cooking?
Oh my gosh, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. There was, well, yeah, I don't know. The cookies weren't that great. We went to a cookie party with like 20, 15-year-olds had made all the cookies. It was 10 different types of chocolate chip cookies from the boys. And then the girls made all these cute little reindeer cookies and ornament cookies.
Yes, that's what I got out of it. I didn't attend, but when you guys came back, and you can guess what the boys made compared to what the girls made.
It was pretty funny. Okay, so primer. Oh my gosh. I'm going to go ahead and prime this. And I'm not priming it. There's two things that you would need to use a primer for. You're either going to use a primer because you're worried about the wood oils bleeding through and discoloring your paint over time. I can look right at this and I know, number one, I've got veneers, light colored veneers over MDF. I'm not worried about this discoloring. It's got a light colored wood. It's not super old. So I'm not worried about bleed through on this piece, but I am worried about my paint gripping to this surface. Even with my scuff sanding on there, I'm going to go ahead and prime. I like how paint takes over primer. So even when it's just optional sometimes and I'm not sure, I will err on the side of yes, add primer. Okay, so one of the number one things that people struggled with when I would paint before was, okay, if I need a primer, do I need a gripping primer or a stain blocking primer? Not all primers do both. So be careful when you're choosing what you're priming for, that you get the right type of primer. I see, you want to go grab I have a spray can of Zinsser Bin, the Bin primer. The number one primer I see recommended all the time is Zinsser Bin. Block it now. It's a shellac-based primer. It's white. You can spray it or brush it on. Zinsser Bin is only going to stop bleed through. It's not going to help you with adherence. Let me show you the container for that. I actually don't use this a whole lot. I prefer to use just clear shellac because this stuff doesn't spray very nicely, whereas clear shellac sprays nice and smooth. But this is the container. This is only going to block. It says Ultimate Stain Blocker. Okay, so if I'm trying to prime this one for grip, this is not going to help me at all. It's the wrong type of primer. What I think just saves the day and answers all your questions, I just use Wiesel primer because it's a stain eliminating primer that is also a gripping primer. So you don't have to sit there and decide, what am I priming for? What type of primer do I need? You just have one primer. It does both jobs. It solves the problem. So I'm going to stir this first before I use it. So I've got a stir stick that I use for my primer. want to make sure this is stirred really well. Although this one stays really nicely mixed in the can.
That's a well-loved can.
Some have a tendency to settle. Yeah, this one's almost, I have about a third of this can left. This comes in 4 colors. It comes in clear, white, light gray, and dark gray. This is the light gray. This is my most used color of the 4 because I can use it under light colors and under dark colors.
What about odor blocking?
The stain blocking portion is what's going to stop the odor blocking, so it will. But odor blocking, if you have like cigarette smell, number one, I would avoid it. Just avoid pieces that smell like cigarettes, because cigarette smoke will soak into every single part of that piece. It's going to be in the glides. It's going to be in the back.
On the inside that you're not going to touch.
Up on the top. So unless you're going to coat the entire piece inside and out in a shellac-based primer to block those smells, I mean, even musty odors, think about that. It's going to be in every single surface on that piece. So really, I don't bring home a lot of pieces that smell. Like if it smells like cigarettes, it's a hard no for me because it's always going to smell like cigarettes.
Can you use a shellac under Weisel?
You can under their chalk synthesis paint, which is what I mostly use because it's the best for blending. It's not recommended under 1 hour enamel. So 1 hour enamel is their all-in-one paint. I know on this piece, I'm going to be using the chalk synthesis paint because we are going to be doing a textured sort of old world finish on this. So you want to think about that beforehand. The type of primer can affect the products that you're going to be using later. 1 hour enamel is an all-in-one style paint. It doesn't require sealing. It's great for solid single color finishes. And it's not recommended to use with shellac because it can cause crackling in it. And that's the case with a couple different paints. So you want to be careful that the paint that you're using is friendly to shellac. So I'm going to be using one of my Klingon S50 brushes. These are the same brushes I use for painting. They're also great for priming. But when I do priming, I do choose one that's not one of my newest, most beautiful brushes. I save the beautiful ones for clear coat. Primer is hard on your brushes, so I don't use the best brushes, and I'm just going to dip the tips of my bristles in, and this is going to go on like a paint. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and cut in my edges. This brush is on really nicely, and I want to keep this as smooth and even as possible because this is going to be the base for my paint also. So if this is chunky, everything I put over the top of it is going to look chunky also. 2 coats of this are recommended with dry time in between, so I'll usually leave 24 hours in between my coats. Especially when you want it to stain block and stuff like that, you want that primer to set up and block with each coat. If you're rushing your coats, they're not going to be as effective as if you take the time in between the coats. So some pieces, if they're really stubborn with stains, some pieces can take 3 and 4 coats of a primer to keep it from bleeding through. So now that I've cut in around those edges, I'm going to go ahead and come in and fill in this center. And I can brush it on any which direction. I can brush it on as crazy as I want, and come back and clean this up afterwards. I want to make sure I get it into all my fake wormholes.
Those are real.
Oh, are they? Yeah. I'm sure the worms are eating.
Yeah, they all match.
They're feasting on the MDF right now.
On the outside.
So now I've got kind of messy brush strokes. I'll come back at the very end and I just smooth those out with a really light hand. It's going to give me that nice, even, smooth coat. Even though I plan on a textured finish, I still try to lay my primer on nice and smooth. You can spray this primer. It does require a little bit of dilution because it's a little bit thick. Okay, and then I'm going to come over here and get in some of these. I need to get into to those wormholes again.
Staying worms.
Got a lot of wormholes on this one. I don't know, was there, I mean, I lived in the 90s. Like, was there
Well, I hope you did.
infestation problems?
That would make this really weird.
Were you trying to hide? Maybe they were trying to hide like real infestation with fake infestation. Then you won't notice.
Oh, you offset it.
Yeah, you won't notice the pieces that really have bugs crawling in them if you do fake bugs on all your furniture. I just refill my brush anytime I feel like it's dragging a little bit. I'll add a little bit more primer to the, and I just dip it. Always just the tips of the bristles are what's going into the primer.
You even make primer beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason it shouldn't be. And this stuff goes on nicely. It paints on really nicely. If I'm spraying primer, this stuff sprays nicely, but sometimes you guys will see me spray. It's usually if I need to go live and I haven't gotten something done, I will use a spray primer. Let me show you guys what my favorite spray primer is. Okay, and then I smooth it out at the very end. Get all my brush strokes running, nice, long, even linear strokes. I'm going to get under here, under this lip. Okay, I'm going to get down here. And then I'm going to do the lip for the top. Sorry, I know I'm back and forth between the top and the bottom.
It's okay.
Okay, this first coat, I can usually still see some of my wood showing through. That's pretty good coverage, though. I'm going to go ahead and get these legs. Whoa, just dropped my brush.
It's a karate brush. Sherry, I really feel Sean should speak of spraying.
Well, spraying, the hardest thing about spraying is every sprayer is different. So I can tell you the exact specifications for my sprayer, and then someone's going to come to me and say, I bought this sprayer for $100 off Amazon. What settings do I need on this? And it's going to be totally different than my sprayer. So even when I do spraying videos, the easiest blanket rules I can give for sprayers are you get what you pay for. If you buy a $100 sprayer, it's a $100 sprayer. If you buy a $300 sprayer, it's going to be nicer, but it's not going to be as nice as a $500 sprayer. I have a $800 sprayer that I use. Sean, when he sprays, it's actually funny because when he sprays, I will use my Apollo sprayer when I spray. But when Sean sprays, he prefers to use a pneumatic sprayer, which is an air version that you hook up to an air compressor. Those you have to be comfortable using an air compressor, and they're not portable because unless you're going to haul around an air compressor with you, it wouldn't be something if you like paint on site. So our air compressor stays put. He likes hooking it up to the air compressor. I prefer to just get out my Apollo that has the turbine attached to it. I'm going to go ahead and I haven't cleaned the front of this yet, so I don't want to go too far. I'm just going to get this half of this acanthus leaf that we already did clean. So I'm using a tapping motion just to get the primer into the acanthus leaves. I wouldn't recommend, if you can avoid it, using water with your primer because it can affect the effectiveness of your primer. So it can dilute the formula, which can change how effective your primer is.
Donna, you're spot on.
What?
Guys always like more power.
Yeah, I'm not super comfortable, turning on the the compressor, and then dialing it into the settings that it needs on the compressor. I'm not super comfortable with it. Sean is fine with that. I get out my Apollo sprayer.
One-stop shop.
Yeah. If you're just learning how to spray and you have never sprayed before, a $100 sprayer off Amazon is going to be like training wheels on a bicycle. It's not going to be like your mountain bike that you ride, in the, I don't know, what's the race that they have here for the bikes that come all the time? It goes through folds and folds. Yeah, okay, we don't know. We don't know those.
It's talk about the last time I was on a bike.
Those super high-end bikes that are like $2,500 or whatever. People are like, that's not super high-end. I don't know, $8,000, whatever. It's going to be your children's bicycle from Walmart is what you're getting for $100. Yeah. It's not going to be, my Apollo sprayer is the nice high-end sprayer that you would ride a race in.
Because there's multiple phases to it. It's the cleanliness, it's the lack, like I get a lot of overspray with mine, so it wastes paint versus an Apollo. The cleaning time is better on the Apollo than it is mine. But it's the tried and true.
It's what you're comfortable with.
It's
what you're comfortable with. I even noticed that with brushes. You know, people will say, what's the best brush? The best brush is what you're the most comfortable with. It's what you use all the time. If you use all the time a Wooster brush from the hardware store, you're going to say that's the best one because you're super comfortable with it. You know, it took me a while when I changed brands to learn to change my habits, and now I love this brush. Now I'm super comfortable. If you put something else in my hand, it feels weird. It's the same for Sean. Like, he's used a pneumatic sprayer for years. He's totally comfortable with it. Me, I'm used to my Apollo. It takes time to learn your sprayer. So cleaning time, you know, a more expensive sprayer will have metal parts inside, which means you're going to get more longevity out of it. Plastic parts will tend to wear faster. So if you're taking it apart, putting it back together all the time, you're using that sprayer all the time, it's not going to last. If you're just going to do, you know, 2 pieces a year, probably not as big of a problem. So you really have to assess what's your budget. What are you going to be using it for, you know, and get the nicest one that you can afford for the level of painting that you're going to be doing. So I paint all the time. I do, you know, 1 or 2 pieces a week. So, you know, is it worth it to have a nice, they always have sprayed on clear coat on them. Is it worth it to have a nice sprayer? 100%. So that was a long talk on a sprayer. We probably need to do another video on a sprayer. It's been a little while, but I don't do them a whole lot because I see people that's like, oh, great, that's your sprayer. What about mine? And I'm like, I don't know. There's a million different ones out there. Like, I can't answer every question on every sprayer because I have 3. I have a $100 sprayer. I have yours, which is a $200 gun with the, I don't know, how much is our air compressor worth?
Oh, like 500.
Yeah, like a $500 air compressor.
This is all, to me, I just gauge it like cars. Do they all do the same job? Yes, they have 4 wheels and they go forward or backwards or whatever. But it's the quality that's behind it is the key. Are
you getting a Kia or are you getting
am I rolling out in a Lamborghini?
Yeah.
Well, that's never going to happen. So,
Or do I drive
I have kids.
A 1987 Dodge Caravan?
I think that's where I'm going, College is not cheap.
Yeah, so that's my best advice. Get the nicest one that you can afford for the level of painting that you're going to be doing. And I have some that have come recommended that I've added to my Amazon shop as well. You can check those out. And I tried to put those in at different price levels. If you're ready for your Lamborghini,
is it easier to learn using a high-end sprayer versus a cheaper sprayer?
Your results will die hard, be absolutely better with a high-end sprayer.
Yes.
Can't even complain. Even if you're the most...
But I think at the same time, sorry to talk over you, I think you have to experience the cheaper one to appreciate
that's
the
true.
more
You have
expensive.
to see the orange peel that comes out of it.
Yeah.
Even if you dial in the settings all right and you get your paint thin just right and you get to, you know, your distance from the furniture is just right. I mean, the finish is always nicer on a high-end sprayer. You just get
but I think it's the fundamentals. It's the basics that you have to learn. No matter what the sprayer is, you have to learn how to mix, how to screen, how to dilute. I said dilute. I didn't say dilute.
If you're just starting out, you know, I started out with a cheap sprayer also. So I would be, you know, absolutely start out with a cheap one, learn it. And then when you're ready to move up, but then that cheap one just sits on the shelf. But by then you've probably worn it out and it's no good anyways. All right,
true.
So I have this side here that I already primed. However, I primed this in white primer before I kind of had an idea what my finishes were going to be. So this one side will have white primer. That's okay, because I'm going to cover it all. You're looking at something weird. Okay, so I'm going to do...
I was just looking at you.
We're going to do a textured finish on this. And I'm coming up on time where if I start a new technique. This is a stencil from Posh Chalk. And I think we're going to be using this stencil and we're going to be doing a textured technique. But I think I'm going to save that for next week because I'm going to come up on time and not be able to get very far. So if you come back next week, I'm going to get this piece completely primed, get the hardware off. I'll try to get the new hardware for this secretary desk in time. And then we can just start with a clean slate. That's all nice and primed and start our textured finish. I'm going to go kind of old world on this one. I'm going to embrace texture and we're going to do some fun stuff with texture. Speaking of texture, I had a nightmare this week. Sean wasn't with me, but I went to my sister's house and I had done a piece for her 5 years ago when my niece was born and I used a textured finish. It's a texture product from the brand that I used to work with and I'm super upset about it. Thank God it's my niece's piece. it has dried out so much on the piece that it has started flaking off. She's going to bring me back the piece that I did for my niece. I'm going to scrape it all off. And I'm super upset about this. It has primer under it. It has 2 coats of paint and clear coat, and it doesn't matter. You touch it with your fingernail and it just flakes off. So how do I feel about that product right now?
Burn it.
Yep.
Burn it down.
That's how I feel about that product right now. Yeah.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. Super not happy about that. I will do that on video. She's got to bring me the piece back. I only had my car, so I couldn't bring it home with me. And it's full of her kids' clothes. So
I was going to say, that's what stopped you.
Empty it out. Next time you come out, bring it and I'll fix it. But I have to sand the whole freaking finish off because the texture product that I used,
it textured.
It's like dehydrated so much that it shrunk and it cracked.
It didn't bond.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's the brand that I used to use, their texture product. Message me if you're not sure what I'm talking about.
What's that again?
Yeah. Goes along with every opinion I have of them. All right, you guys.
Merry Christmas!
So, Merry Christmas. Next week is Christmas, you guys. I do have a new piece coming out on my YouTube channel this week. And then next week, I'm going to share some of my top pieces that we did all throughout the year. It's one of my favorite parts of the year to see what did you guys respond to all through the year? What were the most popular looks? And so that'll come out the week between Christmas and New Year's on my page. Yeah, you guys, if you don't already subscribe to my YouTube channel, and we'll get a new tutorial out. And then when you come back next week, we'll start adding some texture to this one the right way. And then we'll start getting our old world finish on. All right, you guys, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you guys so much for such a wonderful year, and I will catch you guys next Thursday.